Yo, what's up, guys? We're back. First card of the year for the UFC in 2020-25. Want to wish everyone a happy new year. And yeah, man, pretty good card, honestly. It's in the Apex, which, kind of sick of the Apex. But at the end of the day, man, the whole card has some good fights if you look at it. So I'm definitely excited to break it down. And thanks, everyone, for watching the video. Hit the like button, man, and let's get right into it. Let's try to get some engagement on this video, make the first video of the year good. So, like I said, hit the like button, put a comment down below. Tell me what your goals are for betting this year and who you like on this card, what kind of your strategy is going to be. I'm curious to hear it. And besides that, let's get in this first fight of the night here. It's a short notice fight. Narelo Aliyev, he was originally going to fight, I think, a harder opponent. He was going to face Yanel Ashmouche, who has kind of average striking, but he has big power, and his wrestling and grappling looks pretty good, so I think it would have been an interesting matchup against Aliyev. But now he's taking on Joe Solecki on really short notice, which Joe Solecki is serviceable, but I don't see him as big of a threat because Solecki's going to have to rely on likely getting a guard submission or a guillotine or something like that, and I just think it's not very likely. Aliyev in his last fight against Rafael Alves, he survived some really deep guillotine attempts from Alves, who's known for finishing those. So obviously Aliyev is going to be tough to submit, even though he did give a couple opportunities. So Solecki is going to maybe be confident and willing to go for things, especially with the fact that he took the fight without much notice. But if he doesn't get that submission early, I just think he's going to revert to surviving off his backwards jiu-jitsu and probably go to a decision. Aliyev isn't a big finisher. He's a good top pressure guy, works you over and kind of grinds you down. If he does have an opening where he can, unload with some big ground and pound, he can hurt you. But if you look at his career, he has the majority of his wins via decision, 7 decision victories. And with Joe Solecki, he has been knocked out a couple times, but he usually, when he loses, gets held down and loses that way. And on the feet, Solecki just doesn't have a lot of danger factor to him because he has just such a wide stance where I don't think he can generate very much power at all. So Aliyev's going to be able to walk him down and just put him on his back more than likely. Solecki probably should try to wrestle first, see if he can get on top. I think that would be his best chance, but at the end of the day, I just think Aliyev's going to be able to get him down, probably wear him down early, maybe defend a submission or two, beat him up, and then win a decision. So I think the young guy, Narelo Aliyev, a little bit of a layoff for him. Hopefully he can be more active this year, but I like him. I think the guy's good, and I think he can get this win here over Joe Solecki. And the second fight, not too much interest in this one. Going to be brief on this breakdown. Fatima Klein versus Victoria Dudakova. Fatima Klein is a gigantic favorite, like -1,000. So don't really think there's much you can do with that unless you're kind of angling for the Klein late finish scenario, which I think is possible. I feel like Dudakova and Klein are kind of similar, though. 24, 25. Heights are kind of the same. I feel like they're both grappling based, but they have decent in and out movement and fast with their striking, even though it's not super good. But I do think Fatima Klein is the better cardio, kind of is a little bit more of a dog, and her grappling is better. She has more pedigree there. Dudakova, a little bit of a quitter, I feel like, untrustworthy type of fighter. So I think Fatima Klein is the big favorite because of those reasons, but laying the chalk like that, I just don't see any reason to do it at this point with someone that has never even won in the UFC. So yeah, I think Dudakova is not going to win. I just don't really see it, but there is value on her side, and ultimately, though, I'm going to go with Klein by decision. I just don't have a ton of interest in this fight, though. I feel like Klein could get a late finish, so maybe if you sprinkle on that, you could end up a winner, but I'm going to predict that Fatima Klein wins via decision. And so keeping it going here, we got Magomed Gadzhiesulov taking on Bruno Lopez in this next one. And this is a good fight. I feel like both these guys are mid-tier 205ers at this point with good potential and same age, same height, so it's a good matchup. I feel like Sulov is the more technical guy. He moves better. He's going to be a lot faster, but it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with the pressure of Lopez. If Lopez can actually corral him, track him down, work some leg kicks, and make it more of a brawl. I've seen Sulov in a fight versus someone that was a good wrestler where he couldn't rely on taking him down. He got dropped in that one eventually and struggled a little bit with the pressure before he eventually ended up kind of settling back into the fight. And Bruno Lopez is someone that I feel like could maybe pressure in, hit some leg kicks, a big punch or two, and change the tide of the fight. But I didn't really like how he looked in his last one, man. I feel like he was slow. He wasn't looking to be as aggressive or willing to get hit as much, and that was after he got knocked out previously on the Contender Series. So hopefully in this one he can open up and not let that UFC jitters kind of hold him back, but I kind of fear that it's going to happen. But you look at Sulov's last fight as well. He kind of looked vulnerable on the feet against Brenton Ribeiro, and just laid on him. He almost got submitted in the first round also. So I feel like both these guys have something to prove coming in here. And I am going to lean with the fighter I think is more technical, fast, that probably is going to be able to win if he doesn't get finished, which is Magomed Sulov. And I think he's going to win by decision. I don't really think a finish for him is as likely. I think a finish for Bruno Lopez is more likely if he does end up winning. So I think Magomed Sulov via decision is how he's going to get this fight done. And I see him moving around, kind of using his quickness to pot shot Bruno Lopez from the outside, maybe mix in a takedown or two, and get the win that way. But if Lopez can really pressure, make it more of a brawl, and defend a few takedowns, use that judo that he has to keep it standing or even get on top, then hey, I think he could potentially win. He has 5-round experience, LFA champ. He is a good fighter, so I get why the line isn't super wide for Magomed Sulov, but at the end of the day, I think that the speed is going to be the difference in the fight, and Sulov is going to get this win. And in this next one, we got Ernesta Karakite. She's coming back. She's looking for her first UFC win after a decision loss to Dione Barbosa, her first time in the octagon, taking on Nicole Cagliari, who making her UFC debut here. Cagliari has a pretty impressive run of finishes going on. She got a first-round submission win on the Contender Series. And honestly, I don't get the line on this fight. You see Karakite is a pretty significant favorite, and I would line it closer to a pick'em. I get that there's a big size disparity, and I do think that Ernesta is the better striker. She has a kickboxing background, kind of a point fighter, good movement, great cardio. She keeps the volume high and kind of just picks at you from the outside. But she is a little bit hittable and kind of stands upright, doesn't really move her head. So Cagliari is one of these girls that's shorter and closes the distance pretty quick. She can move in and out well. So I could see her closing that distance and stunning Karakite early. But it's hard to really be confident in that with 125-pound females, so I don't know if she's going to have the power to really get her out of there or hurt her that badly at the end of the day. And you're looking at the grappling aspect of it. Cagliari does have good judo, and she can definitely submit Karakite if she can get it to the ground. But a lot of her submissions come from fighters looking to take her down or engaging in the clinch first with her, and she doesn't usually have the best setups offensively for wrestling and things like that. And I do believe that she probably should fight at 115, and she gets tired, so she could struggle down the stretch if the fight gets in the later rounds. She has a lot of first, second round finishes recently, but if she can get it to the ground early in the fight, I do think she's definitely very live for a submission win. Ernesta almost got submitted by Barbosa her last fight, and I think she's not necessarily the greatest grappler. So I do believe that angle is there for Nicole Cagliari, but if she can't get it done early with the submission, I think that the skepticism is a little justified because she hasn't gone late in a lot of fights recently. The fights that she has gone later on, she hasn't been able to win. And Ernesta has really good cardio. She had a pretty decent performance where she did defend a number of takedowns versus Diony Barbosa, kind of got better as the fight went on, and Barbosa is a fairly good fighter who kind of pushed Miranda Maverick. So I think that Ernesta probably is going to come in here and get the win, but I don't know if she's going to justify the price tag. I think you might have to sweat it out early. Maybe Cagliari will rock Ernesta, like I said, or get into a dominant position on the ground, but I'm not banking on her getting a finish, and if she doesn't get that finish, I think that Ernesta's probably going to be able to work her way back in, win the last 2 rounds. So I'm going to say Ernesta Karakite, the favorite, wins via decision and gets the job done in this fight. And up next, we got another short notice matchup between Jacoby Smith and Preston Parsons. And I'm excited for this one, man. I'm excited to see Jacoby Smith get into the UFC and start to fight UFC level competition. And they're throwing him a really good opponent right away on short notice. So obviously they believe in this guy, Jacoby Smith. And I know that Daniel Cormier is behind him. And obviously his wrestling background is really good. So he's someone to definitely look out for, but Preston Parsons is no joke. He was going to fight Andreas Gustafsson, who's another guy coming off the Contender Series that has hype, and it would have been a hard matchup for Parsons either way, but now he, is not getting any favors here with this type of matchup because Parsons, we all know his game, man. I mean, the guy likes to pressure you. He likes to use that kind of lead hand offense, jab, check hooks, maybe some 1-2s. But really, he's trying to take you down and put you on your back and eventually either submit you with the arm triangle, maybe get your back and get the rear naked choke, or kind of just grind you out. And with Jacoby Smith, he's fighting a guy that on the feet is maybe not as technical, but going to be a lot bigger. I feel like even though they're the same height, it's kind of, I just see Jacoby Smith as like the bigger, stronger guy. I mean, you look at him in the cage against these other opponents that he's fighting at higher weight classes, and he's putting them to sleep real quick, and I just feel like he's going to be the more imposing figure in the cage. And I don't know, Parsons is going to walk him down and want to get in these exchanges with Smith. If Smith just sits down and throws some power, I think he can hurt Parsons. So Parsons doesn't really have a lot of outs because I feel like if he tries to wrestle, Smith is going to be able to get the advantageous positions, get on top, and you don't want Jacoby Smith on top of you. He's going to throw some vicious ground and pound. But Parsons, one thing about him is the guy does come in good shape. I feel like he has good grappling. So if he can create a lot of scrambles, make it high-paced early in the fight, Jacoby Smith coming in short notice, maybe he has a hard weight cut, maybe he's not in the best shape ever, and Parsons can take over the second half of the fight. I think that's what he has to do here, maybe try to keep it standing, believe in his striking a little bit more, but Jacoby Smith is a blue-chip prospect for a reason. I think that he's more than likely going to go in there, he's going to be able to land some big shots on the feet that make Parsons want to wrestle more, and I think that Parsons is going to go into a defensive shell in the grappling, kind of accept the bottom position, try to just survive, and I think Jacoby Smith is going to probably be able to get the win here. Whether he gets a late finish or ground and pound finish or a decision, I kind of am leaning more towards a decision. You see him versus guys like Le'Veon Lewis versus Austin Jones, who are a little bit higher level opponents that he's been facing, and he took them to decision, so I think that Parsons could probably do the same thing. So I'm going to say Jacoby Smith wins via decision. And in this next one, man, we got a really interesting fight right here. Thiago Moises taking on Trey Ogden. And both these guys have something to prove coming into this fight. Because Thiago Moises kind of only been able to get wins against debuting guys, short notice guys recently. And his losses, he has been fighting stiff competition, but obviously, he hasn't really been that competitive. Like, kind of got beat up by Benoit Saint Denis, had another bad loss against Ludovic Klein. So he needs to have a good performance in this one against Trey Ogden and prove that he could still beat,
mid-tier UFC level competition, maybe get back in that top 15 mix. For Trey Ogden, this is kind of a prove-it fight for him, where he's on a good streak right now. He's beaten 3 guys in a row, but none of those fighters are Thiago Moises or at Thiago Moises' level, and we're going to see if Ogden kind of get over that hump, beat a fighter that's just outside the top 15, and get a big-time matchup. At 35, Trey Ogden needs this win to kind of validate himself. So it's a fight where Moises has to win to kind of stick around where he is now and maybe get another chance to move up. And for Ogden, this is the fight that his whole streak is built on. If he can beat Thiago Moises, he's probably going to get, a top 15 matchup, or at least someone that's like another Thiago Moises level opponent. So ultimately, though, I think this is a good fight for Moises style-wise. I mean, on the feet, he has really good counters. He's kind of one of these fighters where you can get him to plant his feet and just wing punches, and I think that's why he can get shoved against the cage, or he can get a little bit wild and overwhelmed in certain fights. But I don't think that Trey Ogden is going to want to exchange with him, and I don't think that Trey Ogden is going to be able to stick on the outside because Moises is the better kicker. I see Moises getting in on those leg kicks, landing body kicks, and Ogden I don't think is going to be able to use the jab and just move. So recently Ogden's been using his wrestling really well, timing takedowns, taking the back, controlling, grinding guys out, and I just don't see him being able to do that with Thiago Moises, though. I think Thiago Moises, even if he's taken down, is going to be able to use his leg attacks or some submission attempts to get back up to his feet, make it a striking fight again. And I just don't think that Trey Ogden is going to backpack him like he did Mota or Loic Zabov. I think that Thiago Moises is too polished for that. He's going to be able to defend the majority of the takedowns, probably keep it standing, beat Trey Ogden up on the feet, keep him moving backwards, kind of low volume, win the optics battle, and I think that if he gets on top of Trey Ogden, he could finish. So Moises for me is the prediction here. I get the Trey Ogden love just because of the way both guys have been looking recently, but I just don't think Trey Ogden is going to be able to use the game plan that he has against these other opponents to beat someone like Thiago Moises. So Thiago Moises is the prediction for me in this fight. And this next fight, this should definitely be an action fight with Marco Tulio Silva making his UFC debut against Ihor Potierio. And Ihor Potierio 1-4 in 5 fights with the UFC, but they keep giving him more and more matchups because he's entertaining. He goes in there, he throws down, and he always makes it a pretty fun fight. His last fight was Cesar Almeida. Kind of a weird fight with a lot of fouls and lackluster there, but a lot of his other fights have been entertaining, and he has been kill or be killed for the most part in his career. And taking on Marco Tulio Silva, I think this is a great fight for Tulio Silva to kind of introduce himself in the UFC and see exactly what he has, because he looks really athletic. He looks like someone that mixes it up well. The guy can wrestle and strike. He has good cardio, but he's just a little reckless on the feet. He's hittable, and Ihor Potierio is long. He's going to be moving, and if he can stick and move on Tulio and pull him into something big, maybe he could knock Tulio out or get this big upset. But Marco Tulio Silva looks good on the feet. He looks like he hits hard. He attacks all parts of the body. He is good at walking you down and kind of controlling distance with his ability to move in and out of range quickly for a big guy. And then he'll mix in the takedowns as well. And his wrestling looks okay, but he's able to use his physicality, his timing to get guys on the ground, and then it seems like he's decent on top. So he's well-rounded, and obviously I like his cardio too. So I think the guy is a good prospect, but it's just going to come down to he's already been knocked out one time. Is he going to be able to avoid running into punches or big shots at this higher level? And Ihor Potierio isn't someone that's necessarily an elite striker. He is not someone that you're going to see at the top of the division anytime soon. But if he could wobble Marco Tulio or drop him or hurt him, then Marco Tulio knows he has a lot to work on. But if Tulio can come out here and use his well-rounded skill set to wear Potierio down and finish him or dominate him, then yeah, we could see him fighting a higher level opponent next pretty quickly. So I think Marco Tulio Silva is going to get the job done. I mean, the guy's a big favorite. I think that he has a lot of advantages here. It's just him not being reckless and running into a big shot from Pateria, who is serviceable. But yeah, I think Tulio Silva's going to either win via finish second, third round or decision. It seems like Jorge Pateria's gotten a lot better at surviving. He's gotten in better shape, and he's definitely pretty durable. So I'm going to say it's a decision win for Marco Tulio Silva in this fight. In a fun fight, good matchup here. And this next fight, I'm excited for this one. Closing out the prelims, we got Jose Johnson. He's taking on Felipe Bunz. And this should be a bang fest on the feet, man. I mean, both these guys like to get in the pocket and wing punches. I feel like Jose Johnson, with his length and his skill, is the better striker on the feet. He's just a little more defensively responsible. He throws straighter punches. He's a little bit tighter, and on the inside, he's nasty with his knees, with his elbows. Definitely the more diverse striker. But Felipe Bunz, man, the guy is long as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how he handles someone that, where he's usually the longer fighter at 125, is at a significant disadvantage in this one. But he likes to sit and wait for guys to come to him and land the big left hooks or big right hands over the top, and he has huge knockout power. So if he can land clean, he could put you out. And we've seen Jose Johnson knocked out before, even though it's been rare over all the amateur and pro fights that he's had. He has gotten put out cold. So Felipe Bunz early on is going to be very dangerous. I think he has a chance to knock Jose Johnson out, but he tends to get really wild and lose his composure if you can pressure him and be a little technical. And I think that Johnson has the ability to do that. He'll kind of just rely on shooting these ugly single legs, and he has okay wrestling, and I feel like maybe he could get a takedown or two, but at 125, I think Johnson is going to prove to be a hard guy to hold down, a hard guy to take down and control, over time. So Bunz, I don't see having the cardio to keep that up for 3 rounds, and I don't think he's like a crazy submission threat early. I think Johnson in his last fight definitely proved that his submission defense is pretty on point also. So I just think that Bunz is going to come out hot. Maybe he will do well early on, but I think he's going to slow down. You're going to start to see him lose his composure, get wild, get tired, and Jose Johnson is going to get the finish in this one, I think, round 2, round 3, and pick up the win at flyweight. So Jose Johnson's going to be the pick for me. I mean, Felipe Bunz, not a bad fighter, but I think that it's a decent spot for Johnson. I mean, you look at Bunz, 35 years old at 125. He's coming off a fairly significant layoff and injury. His UFC debut, he started out good versus Josh Van, like a lot of people do, but then eventually he got finished. And I just think that Jose Johnson, if he is going to make a run here at 125, he dedicated himself, he dropped all this weight. He has to win this fight impressively, look good, and we'll see what he can do from there. So I'm going with Jose Johnson, though, to win this one via finish. And kicking off the main card, we got 2 UFC veterans at this point. Kind of a crossroads fight for these guys. Puna Soriano, Uros Medic. Puna, he dropped down to 170 for the first time in his last fight in the UFC. He looked really good. He dominated Miguel Baeza, kind of mauled him with the wrestling. So if he can duplicate that performance versus Uros Medic, I think that he'll make a statement in that division. And Uros Medic, knockout artist, he's a guy that has 4 wins in the UFC. All of them are KOs. He's coming off a really nasty knockout win over Tim Means. And, both these guys are around their primes. So this fight, it's going to tell us a lot more about how these guys are going forward. Miguel Baeza, fighter who dealt with a lot of injuries, wasn't really very active recently. And obviously Tim Means is an older guy. So this is a better matchup to see where these fighters are at. But, style-wise, they kind of do the opposite of what both want each other to do. Uros Medic stays at kicking distance. He likes to land hard leg kicks, body kicks. His kicks are pretty fast. He has nice knees. I think that he's a little better in boxing range. He's dangerous there. He's fast. He sits down. He'll throw hard pull counters, good timing. And he's solid at catching guys with a big shot, like one-shot attacks as they come in. But he does tend to let opponents push him backwards, and if he can't time a shot and angle off, he can get stuck against the fence or put on his back. And his get-ups are okay, but it seems like he does tend to get a little bit tired if you can grapple him or wrestle him hard. And he has killer instinct, though. He has great finishing ability. He's finished all 10 of his wins. So if he hurts somebody, he doesn't let them off the hook, and he tries to get him out of there. And Puna Soriano, I think he has to take a page out of the same playbook that he used for Miguel Baeza. He's a big, strong, explosive guy. He fought at 185. Now he's at 170, so he's going to be imposing for the weight class. And I think that he's better suited for 170. I think that he's going to be stronger, more physical, fighting Medic, who's not, in my opinion, the biggest 170 pounder. And Soriano, he's southpaw. He is explosive, kind of powerful on the feet. He just throws big hooks, overhands. His defense isn't that bad, though. He has a good shell, and he kind of just comes in, closes the distance so you can't land anything big, and then tries to push against the fence, take you down. And against Roman Kapilov, he did take a ton of damage before getting knocked out, so I think he's a pretty durable guy. But in this one, if he can close the distance and put Medic against the cage, I think he's going to be able to take him down. And if he can take him down early, I think he can hold him down, wear on Medic, get him tired, and kind of just rinse and repeat that. His last fight, his ground and pound and his, ability to do damage on top wasn't the greatest. He landed a ton of punches, and I think he set the record for the most ground and pound shots, but never got close to a finish. So hopefully he's gone back and tried to work on that a little bit. But regardless, if he can get on top and even do the same exact thing, he's going to be able to get the W again. And I think that he can get this win as the underdog, get the upset here. I feel like Medic is going to get tired in this one if Soriano can put that pace on him and get the wrestling going, and I think that's what's going to happen. So Puna Soriano is going to be the winner in this fight for me. And up next here, we got Austin Bashi. He's taking on Christian Rodriguez, and I feel like we've seen Christian Rodriguez in the same fight like 20 times now at this point, but obviously another undefeated wrestler grappler coming in here, taking on Christian Rodriguez, seeing if they could pass that test. We saw Raul Rosas Jr. come in there and he couldn't get the job done. We saw Isaac Dogarian, same thing. That was a more controversial fight there in that one. Even Cameron Simone, even though he's not necessarily known as a wrestler like those other guys, he still is undefeated prospect. Christian Rodriguez gave him his first loss, but Christian Rodriguez is coming off a pretty bad result over Julian Erosa, where he was looking good in that one, but ended up getting guillotined in the first round. So it's kind of ironic. Like, he went in there against all these good grapplers, and I'm not saying Julian Erosa isn't a good grappler. He has a lot of submission wins himself, but known more as a brawler, and that's a guy that Rodriguez gets submitted by. But he needs to bounce back from that fight, show that he really is someone that could be a viable fighter at 145. Obviously, he did a lot of his work at 135. And for Austin Bashi, it's big time confidence from the UFC to put him in this matchup for his first fight. I mean, they're basically saying if you can win this one, you're going to be close to the top 15 right away. And 13-0, 23 years old. I mean, obviously he has a lot of seasoning before he's gotten to the UFC, so should be ready. I mean, he has just as many fights as Christian Rodriguez does, even though a lot of them aren't UFC competition or UFC level fights. But he just won on the Contender Series against a short notice opponent who he kind of dominated and then eventually submitted, even though there was some back and forth there. But yeah, man, I mean, I think that this fight is pretty easy to break down. Austin Bashi is one of these guys that has a really bladed, long stance. He likes to be heavy on that back leg so he could explode in with big punches. He has a decent head kick, but really he's looking to time that takedown, and he's just a very good wrestler. He's relentless. He has good top control, good back takes, and as up to now, he's been able to kind of just take guys down, run them through the ringer a little bit, get them tired, and then submit them. And his pace, his cardio is really good. He is a big guy, which I think all those things are going to play into his advantage, where Christian Rodriguez previously was the bigger fighter who had the conditioning advantage. I think that Bashi is more than likely not going to get tired, and he's going to be just as big, if not a little bit bigger, heavier than Christian Rodriguez is. But we've never really seen Austin Bashi truly in like a super high-paced fight where there was a ton of scrambling, where he gets put on his back, where he gets kind of beat up on the feet a little bit. So there's still questions with him, and Christian Rodriguez is going to bring that out of him. I mean, Rodriguez on the feet, he has good ability to control distance, use his hands, has pretty fluid boxing, and he could probably dominate the stand-up with Bashi if he gets the timing. And I think that he doesn't have the same power or explosiveness that Bashi does, but he's fluid and can keep the pace, kind of beat up Bashi if he can get the rhythm going. And obviously he is good. His takedown defense is decent. It's not the greatest. I mean, he gets taken out a lot, but he could flow on the ground. He has great scrambles and gets guys tired, gets back up to his feet, and then eventually he could defend slower, sloppier takedowns and take over the fight, and that's what he's been able to do against these guys. So yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a great test for Austin Bashi in his first fight. I'm going to roll with Bashi here, the undefeated guy. I'm going to say that his size and a little bit better top control and conditioning, maybe a little bit more dangerous on the feet than someone like Delgarian, more experience than someone like Raul Rosas Jr. is going to be able to get him this win here over Christian Rodriguez. But man, I mean, Rodriguez has been the spoiler so many times, so if he comes in here and does it again, I don't think anyone's going to be that surprised. But Austin Bashi, for me, is going to get the win in this one. I'll say that he has to go all 3 rounds this time, but he gets the win by decision. And this next fight, this is a great fight. Southpaw versus Southpaw striking fight. We got 2 guys that are good boxers. I think Kopylov is definitely the better kicker, but he likes to use the jab, get in the pocket, and land those really nice, crisp pull counter combinations. And we know Chris Curtis, the guy comes forward, kind of awkward but effective defense, and then he lands those big hooks. He has great boxing in the pocket, picks his shots well, big power, great cardio, great durability, and he just finds his shots and then takes you out. Both these guys are body snatchers too. They have body finishes with kicks and punches. So, man, I mean, I think it's going to be a fun fight on the feet. Kopylov, his last fight, mixed in some takedowns and was able to win the fight that way against Cesar Almeida. And I think that if he wasn't able to get those takedowns, it looked like Almeida was kind of getting to him with the pressure and the volume on the feet. And I think that Chris Curtis can do the same thing. It's just the one issue with Chris Curtis in this one is the age and the fact that he's coming off an injury. So is he going to look the same as we saw him before, or is he going to kind of slow down a little bit, maybe struggle to defend the takedown, maybe struggle to cut the cage off and just get pot-shotted from the outside and beat up by Kopylov? Because we've seen Chris Curtis struggle to get to Jack Hermanson, kind of just get out, struck from the outside, and I think he was a little bit worried about the takedown, and just Hermanson was moving around and he couldn't corral him. But with Roman Kopylov, the issue with that is I think that Kopylov, his cardio is a question mark, man. I mean, even though he has been able to knock guys out in later rounds, he's gotten taken down, been able to get back up to his feet and then get the finish, I do think he slows down, and I think he likes to pick his shots and kind of have prettier fights on the feet. So if Chris Curtis can really walk him down and make it more of a war, start to land his big shots, I think that Kopylov could start to wilt a little bit. And if Chris Curtis can defend the takedowns, I think that Curtis could get the finish in the later rounds or take over the fight. So I definitely think the value is all on Chris Curtis in this one. It's just going to be how he looks. Is he going to look washed, or is he going to come in here and looking like the Chris Curtis that just fought Brendan Allen, where I think that if he does, he could be very competitive here. He just kind of has to take away the jab from Kopylov. He has to close the space and defend the takedowns, keep it standing, make it more of an ugly fight. And I think that he might have to take some damage early, but I see him as the more durable guy. He's only been knocked out one time in his entire career. And even though Kopov's never been knocked out and he's durable as well, I think that he shows more reactions to getting hit and he kind of wears down a little bit more. And I think that Curtis could out volume him and kind of beat him up down the stretch and do damage. So I'm leaning with the veteran here, Chris Curtis. I mean, you look at Kopylov, he doesn't have as much experience to me in longer fights. And I don't see him getting Chris Curtis out of there early or being able to wrestle Chris Curtis. So if Chris Curtis can make it a war, I think he just has more experience in that type of contest, and I think he can kind of grit it out. So give me Chris Curtis as the underdog here to get this win here. And this next one, don't have a big breakdown for this one because I don't have a good read on this fight. I feel like it's a clear dog or pass, but I just don't trust Razak that much. Almost getting up there, 40 years old, but he's fighting Cesar Almeida, who he's kind of been exposed a little bit. I mean, the guy does have great pressure. He can get in the pocket and bang with you. It seems like his stand-up is obviously really good. We know that he fought in Glory, and he's going to be the better striker than Razak Al-Assam, but if they're just in the pocket banging it out, we know Razak has the power to catch Almeida and knock him out. I mean, we just saw Roman Kopylov drop Cesar Almeida in their last fight, so Razak has the power to knock him out if he can connect clean. It's just, is Razak going to keep the pace with Cesar Almeida, or is he going to get wild, take damage, slow down, and start to get beat up? And the other factor in the fight is the wrestling advantage for Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. The guy can wrestle. He could put Cesar Almeida on his back, who seems like his takedown defense is not the greatest at this point. And then it's going to become a cardio battle. We're going to see if Almeida can get back up to his feet and kind of gas Abdul Razak, or is he going to accept that bottom position and let Razak pick up the W? So, I mean, I don't really have a good read on this one, but I'm going to lean with Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, actually, in this fight. I was originally going to think I was going to pick Cesar Almeida, but I'm going to say Abdul Razak Al-Hassan can get the win as the veteran with more experience in MMA. Maybe can mix in a takedown or two, get some wild exchanges on the feet where it looks fun, and get this win. So I'm going to go with Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. Man, I like this fight too. Another banger, man. Santiago Ponzinibbio, Carlston Harris, two OGs, 38-37, but there's still viability, man. I mean, Santiago Ponzinibbio, yes, he has quite a few losses recently, but 3 of his last 4 losses are split decisions, and he's been fighting some pretty high-level guys. And Carlston Harris, his 2 losses in UFC, Shavkat, Chaos Williams, he got knocked out, but he's had some other fights where he looked really good, and he's gotten some finishes, he's gotten knockouts, he's gotten submissions. So both these guys have had some really good fights, and I like how they match up too. I mean, Carlston Harris, he's awkward guy to fight. He's really long. He moves around on the outside and throws these weird kind of choppy punches, but he has good hand speed, good power, and if he connects, he can hurt you. And we've seen Ponzinibbio get rocked, wobbled, dropped recently quite often, and I just believe that if Carlston Harris can connect clean on him, he can hurt him. But the same goes for Ponzinibbio, because we've seen Carlston Harris in his last fight against Chaos Williams just look ugly in this exchange. He's getting pressured, and his inability to be technical comes out, and he just gets clocked and knocked out. So I think that Ponzinibbio could pressure him, be aggressive, definitely use the leg kicks, and if he can defend some takedowns, defend the clinch, where Carlston Harris is really good in the clinch, I think Ponzinibbio can knock him out on the feet. It's just if his chin is going to kind of let him down if he gets knocked out first, or if Carlston Harris can mix in the takedowns, which I think is a lot less likely. I mean, we've never seen Ponzinibbio get grinded out, maybe not in a long, long time, not that I can remember. So I think it's going to be more of a stand-up battle where Ponzi's going to be the more technical striker, pressuring, landing, being effective. And unlike these other guys where Ponzinibbio lands a lot but gets hurt and is able to survive and loses these close split decisions. I'm not sure Carlson Harris has the technicality or the chin to survive, and I think that Ponzinibbio may be able to get a finish in the first round. So Santiago Ponzinibbio first round knockout is going to be my official prediction here. And closing out the card, we got the ladies. We got Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Ribas. This is a rematch from a 2019 fight, and I think it's a way more fun fight at this point. The last time that these girls fought, Mackenzie Dern was coming back from her first fight after a pregnancy, and that's a difficult fight for a lot of females. They come back for that first fight after giving birth, and a lot of them, they don't look good. But Mackenzie Dern has obviously bounced back and done really well in a lot of her recent fights since then. She's now the 6th-ranked strawweight in the world. And Amanda Ribas, she's been moving up 125, 115, looking good. I mean, her last fight with Rose Namajunas, it was a pretty competitive fight. Even though she lost over 5 rounds, she was able to go in there with the high-level former 2-time champion and be competitive. But I don't really like the fact she's dropping down and going back up in weight, even though it's only a 10-pound weight disparity in the weight classes. She's gotten rocked a lot at 115, and I feel like at 125 she might be a little bit better suited. But we saw in the first fight, and I think that it's not too much different here. I think that the difference for Mackenzie in this one has to be the footwork. She already has the power. She has the hand speed to land, and she has decent hands like on the inside. It's just she needs to use her feet to close the distance and not wing punches from the outside and let Ribas use her length and just kind of pull counter her and use her speed and throw straight punches and just beat Mackenzie Dern up. And then if that starts to happen, Mackenzie's going to revert back to those ugly takedowns where she ends up on her back. And Amanda Ribas is one of these fighters where not a lot of other girls are, but Ribas does have the ability to control Mackenzie Dern from the top position and just defend the takedown, stay on top, and win minutes that way. And Mackenzie Dern is not likely going to get a sweep or a submission against someone like Amanda Ribas. So that negates a lot of the danger of Mackenzie Dern off of her back in this fight. One thing that I do like for Mackenzie Dern is it's 5 rounds, so not that Amanda Ribas is going to slow down, but it gives her more of an opportunity to land a big shot on someone that I think is not super durable, and Mackenzie Dern does hit hard, and Mackenzie Dern has the submission threat against anybody, even though it's less likely with Amanda Ribas, especially off bottom. But if she can get on top, she could potentially get something going. But it's just, I don't know if she's closed that gap to be able to beat Amanda Ribas. Amanda Ribas is still good. She's still long. She still does a good job controlling the distance, using her footwork to land these long punches, land nice kicks. Her conditioning is good. It seems like she gets hurt a lot early in fights, gets into it, and then when she finds a range, fighters slow down a little bit. Her conditioning is really good, and she can kind of just pick up the pace and beat fighters up. So it's going to be a good one in this one. I think that Mackenzie Dern is going to potentially look better, but I can't pick her in this. I have to go with Amanda Ribas again. I think that it's going to be a similar scenario to the first fight where closing the distance for Mackenzie Dern is going to be a problem, and Amanda Ribas is going to be able to win off kind of distance management, being the faster fighter with longer weapons, straighter punches. But I am worried about, like I said, Amanda Ribas coming down in weight, her chin, and I think that Mackenzie Dern does have the ability to maybe hurt Amanda Ribas and pull off this upset. So I do think that there's a chance for Mackenzie Dern to get the win, but I am going to go with the favorite, Amanda Ribas, in that fight. So thanks for watching, guys. That was the full card breakdown and predictions video for UFC Vegas 101, first card of 2025. Should be a good one. Like I said, I think it's a fun fight card overall. And for my most confident pick, I think Narello Aliv is going to be my most confident prediction on this card. For the parlay of the week, I would say Aliv and Jacoby Smith, but I kind of like Aliv by decision a little more. I don't know about Jacoby Smith on short notice, how exactly he's going to look, but I do think he should get the win there. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like I said at the start of the video, hit the like button, put a comment down below. If you want access to LFA predictions this week, Fury predictions this week, write-ups for UFC for those other promotions and bets, then go to patreon.com/PredictionGuru. You can go there. You can get a yearly subscription right now, not have to worry about it for the rest of the year. Make yourself some money. And yeah, man, you're supporting the channel as well. So hope some of you guys go over to Patreon and support the channel. I'd really appreciate that. But hit the like button, put a comment down below. Support the channel that way. It's free. And yeah, man, let's keep it going for the rest of the year. Thanks for watching this video. I'm going to be back soon breaking down another fight card, giving you guys some different content potentially. Might do another live stream this week. So just be on the lookout for the channel. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, all that. So talk to you guys later, guys. Thanks for watching.